dementia. I didn't get to choose if I want to live with it or not. But you have a choice about how to respond to me and my illness. I want to live in a world free from the stigma of you misunderstanding my truth. When you have dementia, friends and families don't want to know, they don't ask, they don't want to see it. Immediately, they form a picture in their head of someone sitting in a facility staring into space, drooling. You've seen the pictures many times. I still remember the conversation about whether it was a good idea to let people know of my diagnosis. What? It's better not to tell the kids, they won't understand. It will scare them. Don't tell the adults, they might be embarrassed. Right. The effects of the stigma start the minute you get the diagnosis. What is amazing to me is when someone is struck with another serious illness like MS, kidney disease, various other ones, everyone is notified, the troops are called in to help ensure everything that can be done is. So why does dementia not warrant the same response? We have friends who say, don't worry about it, it happens to me all the time. What is happening to me is not happening to them. Other people think they understand. So when you try to explain what's going on, you get, I know all about it. Truthfully, they don't. One of my nursing friends said she knows and gets it because she worked in nursing for years, so no one has to explain to her. I looked at her in disbelief, told her she didn't have a clue. Such people act unteachable. The stigma also means you no longer get included in the planning of events, or if, like myself, you were always the designated planner, trying to now orchestrate an event becomes difficult. Not because of your own limitations, but because others immediately perceive your abilities are now non-existent. A case in point, during my working career, and every year since, I organized an annual luncheon for a group of nurses and other healthcare professionals. This year, we had a list of 248 people. Up till now, I've always done all the planning and organizing on my own. This time, I asked for a friend to help because I get fatigued more quickly, and my eroded self-confidence makes me feel like I shouldn't be doing these things on my own anymore. Even though both our phone numbers were on the notice, mine listed first, all of the people in past years who have contacted me directly to RSVP now bypassed me and reported to my friend. Without them having to say it, it was because they were not comfortable with my dementia or having a conversation with me. These were all people who should know better. In fact, only 5 or 6 actually did. And recently, a friend told me that it has really hit her how others react towards me now. They ask her how I am instead of visiting with me. They ask with pity, does she still know who you are? When she suggests they come to see me, they make it clear they're not comfortable to do that. I told her that they don't realize I understand exactly what they are doing and why. That doesn't make it any easier to take. She said in her conversation she could tell the people who were asking about me, the person, versus me, the dementia patient. She said the difference was so obvious it sickened her. Some of my friends and family have fallen by the wayside because of their own lack of knowledge and willingness to sit down and even ask me what it is like for me in a day. They not only hurt me because they have this view of what it means to have dementia, it hurts them because they miss out on some very special times with me. They are afraid, but they are afraid because of my dementia, what they hear and are led to believe. They don't see me anymore, they see my disease, and I feel it each and every time it happens. It's heartbreaking to know that even those closest to me are forming opinions and walking away from years of relationships. It is in part the responsibility of the person diagnosed with dementia to advocate and educate, talk about and learn about their illness. It is equally the responsibility of their family and friends to learn all they can to ensure their loved ones can live their best life. Without people living with dementia being willing to step up and advocate and work with organizations, none of them could exist. The medical profession also has a lot to learn. On a recent visit to the emergency room, I told the nurses I was having a TIA. I have them frequently. I had been instructed by my specialist to go to the ER so they could monitor me at this time. The nurses said they didn't believe that was happening to me. They went around the corner as though I wouldn't be able to understand or hear, and decided I was likely confused by my dementia and couldn't really know if I was having a TIA. I wanted to get out of the bed and hit someone. I was that upset. I was left unattended for hours. Finally realized no one was taking my needs seriously, and I went home to live through it on my own. I worked for our provincial health authority for 13 years in dementia care. I sought my own specialized training that was current and up to date. My colleagues respected my advocating for patients. Yet the day my diagnosis was handed to me, the powers that be said, "Forget your job, you're done." No one was willing to assess my abilities and see how my position could be revamped to allow me to continue to work. The doctors told me, live your life while you can and get your affairs in order. I'm grateful for that piece of advice. However, statements like that take away a patient's hope. It is a stigma that is perpetuated by a medical community who should be there to offer support. Lack of hope at some time affects every single person living with the illness. We need to educate the medical community to provide support from diagnosis onwards. Yes, they must be truthful about our illness, but they can be honest without taking away hope. This will go a long way to help end the stigma around the illness. The importance of education and incident of discrimination is highlighted by a phone call I received about a year later from the very people I worked for in the medical community. The call went like this: because of your vast knowledge and skills working with dementia clients, would you volunteer your time and your knowledge to help our clients and staff? I was, what? What an insult. I'm not fit to work because I have dementia, but you will use me. Not very happy. I'm not working because of the deep-rooted stigma and entrenched discrimination that surrounds dementia, even in the medical profession and most other employers. And recently, I felt sick about a statement made by a bright young woman who is taking a care aid course. She was preparing to go out on her first practicum when I inquired if she would be working with dementia clients. She made this statement: yes, but it won't be a big deal because I've learned people with dementia have brains that are shriveling up, and what I do doesn't matter because they won't know or won't remember. I was horrified. This statement, however, is not the fault of this young person, but does show the lack of understanding and knowledge even our current medical teachers have. We desperately need more education on all levels to help the healthcare community realize that dementia is not a person. But this continued and all too common ignorance deepens the stigma and discrimination towards all people with dementia. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I do believe sometimes the whole wheel needs to be replaced. The medical profession has to start listening to those who have dementia, for they are their best teachers. They can and should have a voice in all curriculum, how it is used and how it is taught throughout the medical profession. There's also organizations who profess to help us. At one of my first coffee get-togethers, hosted by a lady from the Alzheimer's Society. I sat in a room with 6 other people battling dementia. We were given rules on how the coffee time should go, and our conversation was regulated. When I asked a gentleman what type of dementia he had, I was immediately told by her that that was not an appropriate question, and that was the end of that part of the conversation. Those kinds of incidences increase our isolation. They stop us from participating, and that has to change. During one of our later coffee meetings, an old gentleman who hadn't been responding to any of the meetings I had been attending turned to me and said, "I'm fascinated by you." I laughed. And then he said, "I'll talk to you." So the dialogue began. He opened up about trying to come to terms with his dementia diagnosis. By me accepting and listening to his verbal and nonverbal cues, he found the ability to voice what he was feeling. The facilitator's lack of training and the fact that she was trying to run coffee time as though it was a professional meeting left this man out. I also recently did an interview for CBC Canada, and a bit later they created a web story about me. Someone at CBC contacted the Alzheimer's Society to get their reaction to my interview, in which I had clearly stated I would not go into a care facility because they do not promote quality of life. Her response to my opinion was to completely try to negate my perception by stating, "It's not that bad." It is. I worked in those facilities for 13 years. I know them too well. When I emailed her to let her know how I felt, knowing that she had never worked or stayed in one and had no authority to make that type of statement, she did not respond. Instead, I received an email from one of her peers explaining to me how much the Alzheimer's Society does for dementia. She gave me the script they give to everyone. I responded back about her lack of willingness to even converse about the incident. I never heard anything again. But trying to bridge between the work we do and the work the Alzheimer's Society does, I reached out again to see how we could help each other. I told them of my speaking here today and my fundraising efforts to help make it possible. I was told they would not help because they want the money they raise for themselves. I looked at her and said, "What?" I thought this was about people living with dementia. I continue to reach out today to try to work with them for the common good and for the common goal. But at times it is really difficult because these kinds of incidents perpetuate the stigma and they cause isolation. Many people stop going to the meetings and events because of these very types of things happening. Other organizations seek funds and decide how and what the funds are being used under the auspice of it being for dementia clients without any input from the clients themselves. This perpetuates the agenda of the people making the decisions and has little or nothing to do with those of us actually living with the disease. Living alone with dementia is also a widely untouched but very real reality for many of us. We often hear, "You shouldn't be living alone," "You can't live alone," another perception that creates more stigma. Living alone means we have to work harder to ensure we're one step ahead of our illness. Living alone provides me with the ability to make choices for myself without having to have a care person who wants to help but inevitably takes away my abilities. I also am forced to use my brain because I cannot become dependent on anyone else to catch or ensure mistakes aren't made. It is essential we find tools and ways to stay independent from using technology. I have an Alexa to help us with reminders and appointments to meal planning and preparing and safety issues. I have a lifeline with a built-in GPS that is good anywhere in Canada. That allows me freedom. That's a very important thing for people with dementia. Isolation is a bigger factor. Staying connected with others, for me, it is with Dementia Alliance International, who together, we collectively check in on each other, have educational and support groups, and it is a life-saving tool. It was life-saving for me. Which brings me to DAI and its members, who work to help people living with dementia fight the stigma by writing blogs, doing webinars, and holding the online support groups. We do it with no staff and little to no funds. And we do it in 47 countries. And don't forget, we all have dementia. In my opinion, Dementia Alliance International is an underutilized organization by all other organizations, and this must change. From all over the world, I receive these kind of comments on my blog. Thank you, Christine, you are the voice we need to hear. Christine, you're an eloquent writer. You invite us every day into your intimate space. We laugh, cry, breathe, and wow with you. For me, your daily journaling has only made me a better caregiver. I use what you teach me to reach my clients. Meet them where they are. I listen, participate, and dance. Thank you. And another, your blogging is helping so many people now and into the future. You are a blessing to humankind. So in closing, I would like to thank ADI for the opportunity to open today's proceedings. It's a privilege and an honor. Also, thank you to my DAI family for being my beacon of light through my darkest hours. You truly saved my life. So today, I ask you to help change the stigma by changing the way diagnosis is delivered, change it from there's nothing we can do, to here's a nutrition and lifestyle plan, here's DAI, an organization that can offer you support, education to you, and here's the information for other organizations to help your loved ones. Leave the stigma behind, help us provide hope, help us thrive. Thank you.